11th, 2026. We have so many stories to catch up on today. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the studio. My main camera is frosted over like glamour shots, I feel, plus my very pink and purple background. Let me just give you one of these. Just briefly. There we go. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy that you're here. Wow, what a day. We are broadcasting live right now in many places. We've got YouTube up, we've got Twitch up, we have Substack up. Quite the crew over on Substack. I'm so happy that you're all here on Substack. Everybody, it's so great that you're here. And then of course on TikTok and then Instagram. Instagram has now been shut down a total of 4 times today. Oh, there it goes. And it just told me, okay, now we're doing okay. So good morning, everyone. And someone's asking where to find Substack. The link is in the bio, or you can just look for Your Socialist Dad on Substack. Good effing morning, everyone. It's so good to see you. There's a lot happening today. I do want to start out with some lighter news, if I may. I always like to talk about fun things that happened today. In 1990, Nelson Mandela was freed from prison. We actually talked about the proclamation of him being freed yesterday. The Arab Spring, in Egypt, 2011. This feels like forever ago, 15 years ago now. The Arab Spring, proving once and for all that mass demonstrations and protests can in fact topple a corrupt government. You may recall, but today is the day that Mubarak resigned. Hosni Mubarak, he resigned. He ended 3 decades of authoritarian rule because of mass demonstrations and protests in the street. America, are you listening? It's possible. After weeks and weeks of aggressive demonstrations in the streets, the people saying, no, we will not be ruled by a corrupt tyrant, Mubarak steps down. Speaking of strikes, in 1937 today, the Flint sit-down strike ends. This was a auto strike. American workers, General Motors, 6-week strike in, had to be Detroit. And it's when GM finally recognized the UAW. So 2 examples of resistance. But I'm not done yet. Today is National Inventors Day. Japan, the country of Japan, launched its first satellite into orbit today in 1970. And let's see. I have some jokes here. We're having some technical troubles. Why did the Wi-Fi quit the show? Because it couldn't handle the pressure of the live stream. Ooh, okay. Oh, why should you never get sushi with a marketer or content creator? Because they insist on showing you pre-roll ads before you can even pick up your chopsticks. Okay, not bad. Why do sound checks always run long? We have sound checks in the morning. That's how we start the show out. Why do sound checks always run long? Because nobody in production actually knows how to count past 1, 2, check. I love that. Check 1, 2. I love it. Let's see. It's National Get Out Your Guitar Day. It's also National Don't Cry Over Spilled Milk Day. And for my zodiacs, it's still Aquarius. People born today are known as, quote, visionary humanitarians. Do we have anyone who is an Aquarius on the show today? Anyone on the stream that's an Aquarius? I know we've got you somewhere out there. Good morning. If you're new to the stream, I want to let you know that this is the Ignition News. We are a daily news show, and our main purpose is to filter past the algorithmic slush of modern news to deliver you truth in the time when truth is essential. I've got some really important stories. I see a lot of breaking news stuff happening all over, but we typically find 4 or 5 stories that I think are important, and then we tie them all together. But I can't ignore the fact that obviously today there were 2 massive victories over the course of history, whether that was the Flint strike in 37 or whether that was toppling a tyrant in Egypt 15 years ago. What that proves is that when we get together and as American resistance, we can in fact implement great change. So let us get into the show. I've got 4 stories. The first one is actually quite shocking. It's one a lot of people may not have heard about. Gallup News Organization. After 88 years of tracking presidential ratings, Gallup has just announced they are stopping the presidential approval poll. They are no longer doing approval ratings for individual political figures. Now, of course, if you think this sounds convenient, Gallup has said that they are just evolving their focus to align with their mission. Now, I find this a bit convenient that Gallup, the most reliable presidential poll indicator, which has been doing this for almost 90 years, has decided to stop conducting presidential approval polls when we now have a tyrant in office who has among the lowest presidential ratings in history. 37%. That is perhaps coincidentally one of the lowest ratings in Gallup's entire history. 37% is one of the lowest in the 88 years. It is the lowest since they started doing this in 1930. So a little bit of context here. President Truman averaged 45% during his entire time in office. President Biden, not that he would have known this, averaged 42%, and the president himself peaked at 47%. President Trump peaked at 47% in February. What the fuck were you people thinking? And it's been in free fall ever since. Now, of course, Gallup all of a sudden decides, oh, we're not going to do presidential polling anymore. This is the most widely cited poll in presidential approval. It's the gold standard of presidential polling. So think about what this means. You've got 9 decades of polling, Gallup being the key mechanism to conduct this. Indeed, the poll that all other polls center around. And suddenly they have announced that they're stopping it, that they're no longer doing it. That's a little bit more than suspicious to me, but I think it connects to our next story, which is presidential approval polling, specifically the youth revolt. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. It's your daily news source for the most important information, how to push back and fight these fucking fascists. That was a lot of F's right there. I'm surprised we're still streaming. That's good. That's good. Let's talk about the uncomfortable truth that the demographic which almost single-handedly launched this president into his second term is the demographic which he is failing in the most and the fastest. So we've got a YouGov poll that shows that Trump's approval rating among Gen Z, that's people age 18 to 29, has hit a rating, listen to this, a net rating of minus 42. He has a net disfavorable rating of minus 42. Only 25% of Gen Z approves. Get your kids. Who are these 25%? Now, this is why it's significant. In February 2025, we just talked about February 2025, his net approval rating among Gen Z was +9. So that means in less than a year, he has swung 51 points. He has swung the majority, 51 points. It's pretty revealing. In the 2024 election, he made a lot of inroads with that group. Obviously, you had the podcast bros, all of that shit, particularly young men. And then they got reality. This is the group that is exiting college, is unable to find a job. They're head first into some of the most tumultuous culture wars that we've ever seen. This is a group that is struggling with its own identity. And we are being led by a president who is an alleged pedophile, who is the most corrupt president in the history of our country, and who is failing to live up to any of his campaign promises. And Gen Z is perhaps grappling with the fact that I think they're smart enough to know that their vote enabled this vast, incredible cruelty that we're seeing in this country. We've really never seen anything like this in terms of how far the president has swung in his approval rating in this group of people, age 18 to 29. This is the group of people that is waking into their political consciousness. And I know that we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot of shit this last year especially. But I want you to perhaps think about this just one moment. We are in the process of politically radicalizing the youngest voter bloc in the country. It is our responsibility to both hold them accountable and to push them farther in their own Overton window, to help them understand what they actually did not see. And I want you to think about this just for one moment. For most of these people, age 18 to 29, this president is all they have ever known for a role model. This is all they have ever known for a president. His crude behavior, his corruption, his terrible communication style, his vicious partisanship, the anger, the lies, the corruption. This is what they have grown up thinking is the norm in presidential politics. He's dominated the entire, say what you will about this man. He has dominated the political ecosystem for the last, I would say, 15 years. If you really consider the fact that he essentially crippled a good part of Barack Obama's legacy by undermining whether or not Barack Obama was a legitimately elected president. And in doing so, he began his political ascendance. And so for the last 15 years, and I say young, I'm not that old, but they're much younger than me. These young people have only known this. This is all they've ever seen. So it is our responsibility to remind, educate, and encourage them that they deserve a government which serves them, which makes their life better, which gives them access to opportunity, to jobs, to healthcare. And this is the generation who, if we do not do something, and indeed if they do not do something, they are going to have their lives destroyed by technology, specifically by AI. I'm yapping at this point, but let's move on to the next one. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. I'm going to take a little bit of a pause. I'm going to ask you to do one thing. Please go follow us on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Substack, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. I do appreciate it. Thank you for whoever gave us the 5 stars yesterday on Spotify. I see every one of those. Thank you very much. But please take a minute to follow the show, because what we're seeing is an algorithmic suppression across all of this digital media, right? And this is how we start to tie these stories together. Gallup is no longer conducting polling. Gen Z is now cratering in their presidential support. How do you measure that? With polling. And where does the accountability go? Well, let's get into the next story. I do want to let you know that our show is sponsored by Ignite, Fighting Fascism in the Age of Its Rise, our signature podcast, which is a field guide to fighting fascism. We developed Ignite on Rebel Radio, broadcasting on the Weirdos American Resistance Network, and it is a toolkit for you to push back and fight fascism. So if you're wondering to yourself, how do I get involved? How do I run for office? How do I fix the pothole in the front of my house? Well, go download Ignite. It's totally free. 14 episodes and 4 bonus episodes, a complete field kit to fighting fascism. Let's get on with the next story. And this is wild. People in El Paso, Texas were absolutely shocked this morning when they found out that their airspace had been closed. The United States government shut down the airspace from the ground to 18,000 feet, and they shut it down for 10 days. Can you imagine living in El Paso, Texas, and you find out with no explanation that the United States government has just shut down your airspace? Nothing like this has ever happened in the history of American aviation. They closed it for commercial aircraft, for casual or passenger aircraft, and they closed it for the military as well. It was a complete shutdown of the airspace from 0 to 18,000 feet for 10 days with no explanation and no coordination with the state and local government. People in El Paso were freaking the fuck out. Understandably, think about this for a minute. The government shuts down the skies. Flights are canceled. Commercial transport. Think about it. You get things delivered through flights. El Paso on the border of Mexico, obviously. And the government says nothing. Well, this morning they reopened this after they realized, I'm guessing, this is just a guess, I'm guessing Pete Hegseth was drunk. They shut down the airspace. Our Secretary of War is a fucking drunk. And it was probably an accident, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, they obviously needed to close down the airspace. Here's what we now know. We're learning that the government says it was doing some kind of anti-cartel drone operation. I've also seen a report that there was like testing of laser weapons, all this kind of stuff. It really doesn't matter. The point of the matter is the government is so incompetent that they shut down the fucking airspace for 10 days. Can you imagine the chaos that caused? The only clear heads apparently were Southwest. Southwest Airlines did not cancel their flights. They only delayed them. And that was a smart business decision because it was reopened, the airspace, today at 7 a.m. And even the United States government is now saying that there is no threat to commercial aviation. But also think about this. Here's the impact of this. Okay, you've got a congresswoman, Veronica Escobar, and her district includes El Paso. She's essentially saying that she says, I'm going to quote her. I want to be very clear. This should never have happened. You cannot restrict airspace over a major city without coordinating with the city, the airport, the hospitals, and the community leadership. That failure to communicate is unacceptable. So they literally had medical flights that were interrupted. People could have died because of this. Nonetheless, it is an example of why the government wants to suppress the truth. You may never have heard about this. And in fact, if things keep going the way that they're going, you might not hear about this in the future. There was no threat so severe that they had to ground commercial aircraft for 10 days. They actually warned that they would use deadly force against those aircraft. They said they would use deadly force if it went into the airspace. This is what it looks like when authoritarian failure takes over. The systems start to creep, they crack, and they fail. It's chaos. Imagine how scared the people of El Paso had to be to shut down all commercial aviation. No answers from your government. You call up the city, you call 911. We have no idea what's going on right now. You're on the border with Mexico. The federal government shuts down the airspace. Quite honestly, I don't think we know. I don't think the government knows. And the other thing, let me just close on this. If the government is testing some kind of secret fucking weapon, that's fine. Whatever. Not my position. I'm not going to get into that today. We have a whole discussion about the military industrial complex. Okay. But if the government is testing some kind of secret, super technologically cool weapon, it's actually very it's actually very alarming to me that the government is operating so poorly that while testing this apparent super weapon, that they can't even figure out how to shut the airspace down. That's not a good thing, by the way. It's outrageous. But speaking of outrageous, I want to get into my last story today. Here on the Ignition News, here at Rebel Radio, we are striving to create an open place for people to be safe, to have community, to be protected, and to find the resources they need to fight against fascism. We talk about this often, but one of the communities that is under attack, in addition to immigrants, in addition to women in our country, is, of course, the queer community, the LGBTQ community. There is an active assault in America by our federal government against that entire community right now, an erasure. And it's very dangerous. But it's also being driven by suspicious forces. I want to talk to you about this outrage factory called Fox News. Let's talk about what's driving that conversation. Fox News, there's a study on this. Fox News publishes more articles about trans people than any other outlet in the media combined. And that includes LGBTQ publications. Fox News, a general news network, writes more stories about trans people than The Advocate, than The Nation, and than any publication specifically focused on these issues. This was a study. And they found that since 2023, Fox News has produced more articles about trans people than there are days in a year. Multiple articles per day, every single day for 4 years straight. In 2025 alone, Fox News published 1,000 articles containing the term transgender. For comparison, The Advocate, an LGBTQ news brand, produced under 500 articles. The New York Times posted just over 500. Fox News doubled both of those. That's just print articles, by the way. Another study found 108 videos from Fox spreading anti-trans rhetoric. When Trump signed multiple anti-trans executive orders in his first weeks in office, Fox News spent nearly as much time covering them as CNN and MSNBC combined. 85 coverage segments on this order alone. CNN had 39, MSNBC had 32. They are creating an outrage factory to justify crimes against humanity. And with all the distraction, all the noise, all the chaos, all the bad government, we have news organizations shutting down presidential polling. We have the president's support cratering, and we cannot take our eyes off the ball here. This government seeks to eliminate this community. This Christian nationalist fascist dictatorship will eliminate this community if given the opportunity. And I know that sounds rhetorical. I know it sounds hyperbolic. I know. But we have to draw parallels from history. We have to draw parallels from our own history. We have to listen to what they're doing right now and believe them when they talk. You have Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, our drunken keg's breath. Every opportunity he has, he gets up and he says, by the way, he says something like, no more dudes in dresses. a very calculated, deliberate slur. That's what it is. And call it for what it is. It's a slur. And the men and women of the military in those audiences, they clap. Some of them cheer because they are being given a permission structure to eliminate a group of people. And I know, again, that sounds hyperbolic. But to eliminate a group of people, to commit a genocide or an ethnic cleansing or a cultural cleansing, you first start with the words. Dudes in dresses. It makes it easier when you dehumanize people. When you turn a human being into a joke, it makes it easier to dehumanize them, to imprison them, and then to kill them. And it's not funny. So I ask you that question quite simply. Why is Fox News obsessed with trans people? Why is Fox News obsessed with gay people? Why is Fox News spreading lies about things like litter boxes in schools? Why do Republicans care so much about, why, especially Republican men? I get this all the time. Whenever I present a thoughtful argument, a thoughtful debate, or an inspirational idea about democracy, liberation, saving and protecting people, some Republican MAGA man will eventually result to sexualizing me. That's their only tool in their toolkit. They can't debate me. They can't even keep up with me. So when they lose their debate because they're stupid, they eventually result to the last tool in the toolkit, which is to sexualize me, which is weird because I'm a grown adult man. But without fail, they do. And I think there's some deeply held, like, how do I say this? I think a lot of these men are gay. Or I think a lot of these men, I mean, we know that Republican red states, that's the number one place where people download trans porn. We know that. We know that whenever there's a Republican convention, Grindr crashes. But you can't ignore it. You can't just think, oh, well, some of these Republican men, they're gay, and so they say gay things to me because insert whatever they want to do. The depth and degree to which someone will go to disguise that, to hide that, to excuse their own internalized homophobia, for example. History tells us exactly what they will do. And now we see it in full display in the Epstein files. Graphic, disgusting acts of cruelty, rape, torture, murder, committed by some of the most powerful men in the world, aided by some of the most powerful women in the world. And it's all there for us to see. And we see our government standing there. I watched the Bondi hearing today. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States of America. A disgraceful display. Giving cover to pedophiles, giving cover to the president, giving cover to powerful men, Epstein, Maxwell. This is our government. But don't forget about the trans people. Don't forget about your gay friends and family. Because with all of this chaos, I'm telling you right now, there is an effort to eliminate us. There just is. So we have to fight back. Let me tie these stories together today. You got Gallup disappearing polling. You've got a generation of young voters who helped to elect this president who are completely turning away from them. Record poll swing, 51%. You have the FAA shutting down major airspace with no coordination, no communication, no clear expectation. And you have the most watched news network in America spending more time demonizing a tiny percentage of our population than covering regular news. This is authoritarianism. This is the power grab. This is the government going for it. When Gallup refuses to hold the president accountable by simply saying how unpopular he is, or when a generation of young people finally say, holy shit, we voted for a pedophile. When a federal agency flexes the massive power of secret weapons by shutting down the airspace of a major city, That's it, folks. It's here. The authoritarianism is here now. But just like the people of Egypt, just like our brothers and sisters from 1937 in Flint, just like those who sat at the counters, refused to be moved, just like Mandela, who eventually walked out of prison after 27 years behind bars, our liberation is not blacked out in redacted text files at the FBI. Our liberation is not held back by polling that we can't see because internally we know. Our liberation is not afraid of government secret weapons or propaganda from Fox News. Our liberation is in the streets and in our communities. So what do? Well, first we document. We remember. We follow the Ignition News on your favorite platform so that we can find you. Wherever we go, we will find each other. And second, we organize. We encourage the young voters. We educate them, and we get their ass to the polls. We get their ass to the protests, and we teach them what liberation actually is. We teach them what is possible. And that is the last thing. We have to resist the outrage machine. And the reason we don't resist the outrage machine is because it has been beaten into us that we don't deserve good things. We've been beaten down. So we have to beat the outrage machine ourselves, and we have to build alternatives. Alternative communication through different platforms. Alternative community building. Community recognition. Holding power accountable on the street with our feet. Standing on the ground, refusing to be moved. Of course, my lawyer wants me to remind you that the Ignition News does not advocate for political violence. But I also don't advocate for you to sit at home on your fucking couch and do nothing. And I know if you're watching the show right now, I know you're not one of those people. You're one of the people out in the street. You're one of the people out in your community. You're one of the people here now preparing, getting ready, standing up to this fascism. I know that. You know I know that. But now you have to stretch yourself. You have to go around to your neighbors and wake them up. You have to show them what is on the line. And most importantly, when they try to come for trans people or gay people or immigrants in your community, you have to be there to protect them. None of this is easy. But if it was easy, what would be the point of it? I've covered all of these stories before about great moments of liberation in history. Every single one of the great liberation and moments of history, every single one of the great freedom moments of history, every single one of them without fail has come at great cost. Mental, moral, physical cost. It is exhausting. But you can approach that exhaust with one of two mindsets. You can let it be exhausting, or you can remind yourself that the reason you are exhausting is specifically because you are doing the work. You are running the marathon of resistance. You recognize that you're at mile 11 right now. You have 15 more to go, 15.2. And you can either slow down or you can pace yourself. You can bite down and commit to crossing the finish line. You have to. You're going to collapse, give up after all of your training, after all of your effort. You're just going to collapse now, go home. This is your country too. This is your planet too. We are basically floating on a wet rock, if you think about it. Hurtling through space. We are infinitesimally small bacteria on a wet rock, hurtling through space. Why would we be so stupid as to think we can be controlled by a bunch of rich pedophiles? We're little tiny specks of bacteria flying through space on a giant wet rock. And even that is infinitesimally small, atomilesimally small. I just made up a word there. In the context of everything. And as much as you can recognize it, you can also recognize how infinitely miraculous it is that you breathe, that you see, that you touch, that you feel, and that you feel in your heart. How infinitesimally impossible that is. That somehow two people, some long time ago, two people connected with each other. They had a spark and they created you. and you have survived all of that history, billions of years of rock and dirt and sand and light, and you are here now. So, what the fuck are you going to do about it? Thank you very much, everybody. That's been today's Ignition News. It is February 11th, 2026. We are here. This is the resistance. Go make the world a better place.